I love me a good update, don't you? I'm sorry for being so silly. It's not my fault, I swear. I'm trying to be as professional as possible here. First and foremost, hi. Hello everyone. It is me, otherwise known as Aaron, aka Ershiyen. I am the dungeon master and pretty much the guy that runs this entire show. So this is kind of our little update video, mainly because we understand having to, start watching an entire D&D series is a bit of an undertaking. So, that's why I'm making this smaller and more palatable update. First and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about D6, where we're at and where we're kind of gonna be going, as well as talking about our Patreon, and as well as the stuff that we are kind of just giving you guys, as I am somebody who really, really likes homebrewing. Like, way too much. So, first and foremost, to any of you that know what is going on within the D6 storyline, starting from Black Archives, leaving Dawnright, there was a massive shift in how the show was being created. I completely had to redo the entire layout. I had different ways of how I wanted to actually make the show moving forward, mainly because I was the only one on camera, so I wanted to have character pictures down along the bottom, and then it was just me because I was the one who was kind of giving you the visuals of telling the story, as well as what I do, which is extremely unique for this kind of medium, given the fact that it is trying to almost like having players at the table, but instead it is pretty much overhead cameras and all that fun stuff. So I made this show with the intent of wanting to at least be different, and I have managed to succeed in that very well, at least from my perspective. But this also leads into a massive issue when we're talking about the longevity of the show and what it is I can do individually in order to help the show improve. Quite luckily, over the years, I have managed to have some amazing friends and amazing players who individually have began uptaking some responsibilities that have made this process so much easier and so much faster, and has also given this show a style that cannot be forgotten. So first off, I wanted to mention our wonderful lead artist, Blue Kazanate, who has pretty much done all the art, all the major designs, and has been amazing with every overhaul. We're going to be, we'll be talking about that a bit later, but there has been an update coming along for the visuals of the show as we are moving forward. But Blue has provided a nearly fucking valueless asset that cannot be overstated by how much she has done for this show, and she is just invaluable entirely. So I just want to make sure that people know that every major visual that you see that isn't a map or a dungeon tile or a miniature, it is pretty much done by Blue. Our thumbnail, however, was a combination of our wonderful players Blue, Ray, or Key Ink, as well as Kendra, aka Transient Day. Okay, so that being that, these individuals, including Kendra as well, have all been taking up certain responsibilities to help make D6 what it is and what it can be. But now we're actually trying to hopefully look to making a relatively decent show in hopes that it might grow into something a bit bigger in the future. So this comes to the point where I am going to be talking about the actual intent for D6, mainly because there are a lot of community aspects that I really need to talk about, and not community wise as in like an offense onto people within the community, because all the people within the community are absolutely wonderful. I'm talking about the companies such as Hasbro, and the way that they have commanded WotC to do what they have to do in order to maintain the Dungeons and Dragons license, or IP. So, in the following of that, in the future of D6, we will not be using WotC's, Hasbro's, Dungeons and Dragons moving forward after the next campaign. The reason why we are doing this is mainly because we are trying to distance ourselves from the current system with D&D 5e. And we are looking into other systems in order to tell our D&D stories, one of which currently on the docket is EM Publishing's A5e, and we are hopefully going to be having a much better experience without the problems that kind of D&D is very well known for as of this moment. This really came to light in the end of 2022, right before 2023, after the whole OGL system, the whole OGL problem was arisen, and that was a huge conversation within the community to move forward away from the 5e system. So that is going to be our goal, and that will also have in-world consequences moving from one system to another. In case you guys may not realize, and this has been kind of my goal storytelling-wise, is that I wanted to tell multiple different kinds of stories during the same year time span, which is 854 in world. And during this year, multiple stories are playing out, and this includes Black Archives and Sandtides, as well as a private game that none of you had any idea was ever happening, but it is happening, a game that I called Heroes of the Veil. It is a very internal game, and it is allowed me to kind of expand more on Al-Anon, as it has been my favorite country, because it was my first country that I've made in this system and in this homebrew world. So with Veil currently reaching close to its third to last storyline in the near future, we're hoping to wrap that campaign before the end of this year. Following that, in the end of Sandtide, because we are actually going to be overhauling after episode 30 for D6 Sandtide, all of the visuals, all the characters are getting their updated looks, and we are also going to pretty much be wrapping up that storyline before the end of the year, hopefully, mainly because, you know, schedules can always change, and sometimes we don't want to have less than 4 players. If it does happen, it happens. So we've already experienced a couple of episodes where players were not able to be in attendance. But moving forward on it, we are hopefully going to try and wrap up the Sandtide storyline before the end of the year, and this will lead into the next campaign. The next campaign, as it is, as I understand it, and the way that I am currently working on it and writing it, is going to be a kind of culmination of all of the past D6 games histories, with the exception of Afterward, considering it was only a 10-episode thing. But D6, from Origins all the way up to Sandtide, will kind of have this big closing argument of like what all the answers were, what kind of things were happening in my head at the time, and also all the answers of like how this world works, how the universe works, and then pretty much we're doing a very hard reset post D6 Frontiers. D6 Frontiers is pretty much going to be my magnum opus when it comes to the D&D 5e system. Once Frontiers is over, we will be moving to the potentiality of using A5E, and I hope that that becomes a much better system for us, given some of our misgivings, especially with not just only the company, but also the D&D Beyond system, as well, as we're probably going to be moving to Foundry after that. In fact, it's probably been invited a number of times to actually move over to Foundry, but because all of my source books and all of my stuff is currently just inside of D&D 5e at the moment, there's not really much I can do until we're all kind of ready to pack up and leave, and that will only happen until Frontiers is over. Also, I wanted to talk about D6 Frontiers just relatively quickly, and what to kind of expect. D6 Frontiers will be a really big storyline. As I've mentioned before, it's going to have a lot of answers to a lot of questions that have kind of just been within my world that you guys can go back and just watch all of our stuff for. And hopefully, its conclusion will lead to what will be our own personal world setting and system, moving forward. And with that in mind, I just am so excited for what next year will come to, as we will be reaching technically our 9th year making this show, and then hopefully by the 10th year we will be starting brand new. So let's talk about some more of the more game related aspects, and how I am contributing into hopefully creating something really cool for the future. In case you guys have not heard, or if you haven't been getting any of the updates that we've been announcing over on our Twitter, our Blue Sky, and as well as over on the Discord, which is the Yarshian Discord, I am releasing homebrew subclasses quite frequently. At least once a month, I try and make an entire subclass that is available for playtesting. As of current, I have released a number of documents involving involving our subclasses that we hopefully might compile later on, and we'll talk about that in a second. But more recently, I finished the Firearms magazine of Earsihimmle. It is a pretty much a entire document containing subclasses, weapons, specialized ammunition, specialized sentient magical items. It is a big document, and I am giving it to the wonderful patrons that subscribe to us at the $10 tier, mainly because it takes me a very long time in order to make those kinds of things. But hopefully in the interim, after I release a document, I give out my former document, so that way people can continue to try and playtest it open to the public. But if you want early access to those documents, then it is recommended to try and join the Patreon, and we'll go ahead and get into that. It is tough to run a channel when it does not make you a lot of money. And it is also really hard to have a passion project when it doesn't make you a lot of money either. I've talked about this on multiple different occasions, where the health and support of a lot of my passion projects and a lot of the projects that I do have and make are entirely dependent on whether or not it can succeed on its own financially. Quite luckily, this is a very light show for the most part, because, I have pretty much all the filming equipment. But every now and again, we run into a problem, like, for say, we lost a camera, and it just stopped working, and I couldn't get it to work anymore. We had to actually replace it, and because it was a very nice high-end camera, I needed to replace it with something that of equivalent to, which, quite thankfully, we were able to replace it with a Z-Cam, which is currently what I'm using right now. But pretty much, if not for Kendra, who and all of her graciousness and the gratitude that I have for her, we would not have a replacement camera that is film quality, that is capable of being able to take the long run, where comparatively some other cameras die earlier than usual. And it is that kind of stuff that we need to be able to kind of cover for. But the goal is hopefully that we have enough support coming from the Patreon that we'll be able to actually start achieving some relatively cool goals. One of the biggest ones as of current is that I'm trying to hire an editor. I edit everything, and that goes from all the way to the extra bits, all the way to the actual final product of the episode, and then also the podcasts. And also I have to edit the short content so that way Kendra can do all of her bits for the TikTok. So pretty much I am throwing myself at a wall constantly every single day in order to try and keep up with this show on a weekly basis. And I would like to be able to afford some help with that. And our Patreon, as our first major goal, given our current goal map, is to be able to afford an editor that can take all of this stuff, put it together the way that we usually do, especially here on D6, and then release it for the general public. And be able to do that on time every week when we can. We also have a couple of other major goals that we wanted to achieve, and hopefully, the latest part of our goal is to be able to afford to do this full time. That means everyone having the same equipment, everyone being able to get a payment of a fair share for what they contribute to on the show. Blue gets more money for all the art that she absolutely does amazing job for, and that this can actually begin to function as as something that we love to do, which is tabletop games, and telling amazing stories. This also will include in the future that we might be able to expand out into having other guest DMs, much like how we've had Joe Cat, who was an amazing guest DM who ran the Amen miniseries. We've tried to reach out to a couple of times to a couple of other amazing DMs. Unfortunately, time and money does kind of play a factor into how these shows get made, and unfortunately D6 does not have a very large budget, and we are trying to expand out into other games and other stories. It's just that because we are limited by what we have, there is nothing we can really do until we have more liquidity with our financial situation with D6. That all aside now, between the updates for moving to a new system, Post Frontiers, and then also our Patreon and the homebrew content, we are trying to think about how we can make more content for the D6 channel. I have experimented a couple of times talking about 3D printing. I've talked about I've done a looters episode because I thought it would just be fun, and it really was. I really wish I could do that again. Unfortunately, time and money. But yeah, it is something that I genuinely want to I genuinely want to continue creating more content for D6. It's just that I need more incentive and time and editors and money in order to make this kind of content a reality. So that's pretty much the culmination of everything that I've been talking about today. And there are rewards over on our Patreon in case that you are interested, not just only access to our episodes a couple of weeks early, but also on top of that we have the homebrew content. We have votes for creating NPCs based off of names and races, and also Blue kind of just creating the art for these NPCs as well. So in case you guys are interested in that, the success of the show is entirely dependent on whether or not it has a audience that really cares, and I like to believe that we do. It's just the consistency of our content does kind of collide with the system of of YouTube. Speaking of, in order to try and overcome the consistency issue with YouTube, because we can only really post like once a week on Sundays, and then also our podcast episodes get uploaded on Saturdays, just through the RSS feed. I am planning to start releasing extra content, hopefully on Wednesdays or Fridays every week. This extra content is pretty much all the behind the scenes stuff that happens that is before the episode starts and during our break time for the episode. And these usually are pretty chunky, between 20 to 30 minutes each episode. So I will try and release these starting with episode 1 after we release episode 30 publicly here on the YouTube channel. Right now we have already filmed episode 29 way ahead of time, as we usually do. And then next week, after we film episode 30, is when I'm going to start planning to schedule releasing the D6 Sandtide extras. Also, I really want to get some recommendations as to what kind of content, especially for Dungeons and Dragons or for tabletop games, that you would want to see, because I know that there's a lot of content out there that I really do enjoy. I love Pointy Hat. I love D&D Shorts. I love Joe. I love a lot of amazing tabletop creators, and I really want to know what it is that you guys would like to see from us on our end. Like, do you want to see more live streams? Do you want to see me do world building? Do you want to see me do live streams of homebrewing? Let me know. It will be very helpful to me to know this kind of information moving forward, because this is more than just us, releasing a thing and then not seeing your comments, because we do see your comments and we love seeing whenever you guys are excited when we release an episode, and we really cannot be any more thankful for that. So yeah. Okay, I think I've rambled on for quite a while, but again, thank you all so very much for subscribing. Thank you all for liking and leaving your comments. We love everything that you guys send us. And if you guys have any questions, or if you want to tell us what it is you want to see on the channel, please, by all means, leave us a comment. We want to know. All right, that being said, we hope that you guys have a wonderful day. Stay safe out there. We love you. And as always, see you next Sunday. Or update Sunday. All right, bye.